You're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Give me a full ballerina skirt and a hint of saloon, and I'm on board.
I have a hole in my stomach!
I can't go back.
Welcome to the She Became Visible podcast. I'm your host, Renee Steelman. This podcast is my story. It's your story. It's our story. It's all the stories of all the women who one day knew that it was time to remember who they were, who they are, and stand up and be seen.
Hello. Hello again. It's another Monday. I have switched my live recordings from Sunday mornings to Monday because I decided that I like Sunday being a day off, only on my terms. So it just becomes a day of me doing what I want to do. Okay. And we're going to do Monday through Friday work days. That's what we're doing now. So I am now recording on Mondays. She Became Visible. And as many of you know, we are a women-led, women-only podcast and YouTube, because my goal is to get more women's voices out there. And I am finding the most incredible women to interview and to have as guests. And today is no exception, because today I have as my guest Julia Sanders. And I found her on TikTok. And I have to tell you, as a feminist, this is probably not a very feminist thing to say, but what caught me first on her TikTok was her eyes. She has the most beautiful eyes. They are like doe eyes. They are so beautiful. And I was like mesmerized. I was like, oh, and then I started listening to her content. And it's almost like a Zen moment when you listen to her, because all she's doing is getting out the facts. She's just talking some history here, folks. And she's just kind of showing things the way they were. She's not whitewashing. She's just stating the facts, ma'am. And many of you are probably too young to remember the Dragnet quote, but just the facts, ma'am, is our title today. So let me bring on Julia, and she can explain a little bit more about her TikTok and kind of her decision to be a very kind, sympathetic voice out there for just getting the word out. So let's bring Julia on.
Hi.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, I'm going to get rid of this weirdo background. There we go. So yes, how are you?
I'm so good.
And you have had a typical mom crazy morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What time did you have to drop off kids at school?
Well, I get her to school at 8. It's just one kid. So yeah.
Right.
Got her up, got her dressed, got her ready.
Yeah, get her up, get her dressed, get her in the car. Do you have to sit in a carpool lane or?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I sit there and she plays on her iPad and we just wait till it's time for her to go.
Gosh, that's insane. You know, my brother, I said this once before on one of my other podcasts, my brother for a long time worked for Franklin Covey. And his degree is in organizational behavior. He's very organized, very OCD. And so when he worked for Franklin Covey, he would tell me about this program and how you prioritize your lists and how you put them down every day, the things you need to get done. And I'm like, yeah, you've never been a mom, because those lists just go right out the door. I mean, you can list yourself all you want to. The minute that baby throws up all over you, your list is shot, So it's like, tell me about the time you had to take your kids to school before you went to work, you idiot. Anyway, so yeah, it's crazy. So I found Julia on TikTok, and tell me a little bit about how you landed on that controversial Chinese social media that's going to kill all of us.
So I left the church, and we can go over that later, but I left the church in 2021.
Okay.
And then my brother was the one. So I just found out what TikTok was. Like I had it before. It was called TikTok. I forgot what it was called.
Oh, okay.
But then was just a time waster. So I kept deleting it, or I deleted it a couple of times. And then my brother said, "Hey, there's a really good ex-Mormon community on TikTok. You should get on and we can do this analyzing Mormonism thing." So he came up with the name, but he never did anything with it.
Interesting.
With like it was just an idea.
Yeah.
And so he was like, you should talk about church history on TikTok with that name. And so I was like, so just because I was still processing, because I grew up in the church, served a mission, got married in the temple, BYU, Idaho, like all this stuff. And so as I'm just processing leaving the church and all the things, I was like, having a TikTok could help me process things. So at the beginning, if you look at my early videos, they're all like, a lot of them are questions or like things that I'm thinking about. And then it sort of moved to this like I feel like I've kind of always been that way, where I'm like researching like old documents from the church and just like trying to get at the roots of like, when did this story actually come about? What actually happened with Relief Society, or like all these different things, and then like sharing them on TikTok. And then like I've noticed or for most of the platforms that I use, because I'm on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, I feel like TikTok is where it's at right now.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I get the most engagement or feedback from that. So yeah.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. TikTok is to me, it's like the difference between a home movie and an MGM production. I mean, it's threatening because it is the quality of programs that are on there it's like watching a small short. It's the movie quality is amazing, and it's very threatening for all of us newbies out there. We're like, yeah, it was Coppola on this TikTok. I mean, this is amazing, you know. But so let's go back a little bit, because I one of the things that I love about some of the ex-Mormons that are like you, where they're really trying to just help people deconstruct in a kind and peaceful way. That one of the things that they do is talk about the fact that deconstructing is not just deciding, oh, I'm just not going to go to church anymore, or it is a complete life change. And, you know, when you talk about growing up in the church, serving a mission in Salt Lake, I mean, that's like, you know, Mecca, and then going to BYU, which is another little shelter bubble, and then, you know, so, and being married in the temple and not being married any longer. I mean, there's a whole process there. This isn't just I decided to go vegan one day. You know, this is a complete, you might as well have had a blood transfusion, and you know, you were O positive and now you're RH negative. I mean, it's a complete change, physical change. So talk a little bit about that. So you grew up in Salt Lake area or around?
No, actually, I didn't grow up in Salt Lake. So I'm in Missouri. So I'm in
well,
Zion.
you might as well have been in Salt Lake. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You were in the true promised land where Abraham and everybody lived.
Real.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up in Missouri. I did the typical primary. My parents, we were raised us in the church. My mom is from converts in South Africa, and I got to meet the missionaries who taught her parents on my mission, which was interesting. And then my dad, his family is all pioneer stock. Like we were there in Nauvoo with the saints, and we crossed the plains. Like you can see our names in the little plaques there and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so raised in Missouri, went to church, went to seminary, and then went to BYU, Idaho. I think I was the first kid to get my degree because maybe I should say this. So I have a large family where I'm one of 8 kids. And then my parents divorced, and then my dad married a woman with 5 daughters. And then they had one more. So there was 14 kids. So there's a lot of us, and I'm near the top. I'm the 4th of the 14. So,
gosh.
Yeah.
That's insane. Oh, that's a whole nother podcast. Let's talk about that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So 4th out of 14 and a girl, and financially you going to BYU, Idaho, did you like say this is, I mean, how did that even happen? Because I can imagine that you must have thought, okay, well, it's going to cost money. My dad has 14 kids to support. How am I going to pay for this? How did that even happen?
So that's a good question. So my family never pushed, and I don't know if this is the Mormonism specifically, but my family didn't ever really push education very much.
Yeah.
Like my mom didn't have her degree. So specifically for the women, but in general, none of us were pushed to get our degree. Like my dad went to a little bit of college, but he never got his degree. My mom never went to college. Anyway, so I was like, this is something I really do want. I want a degree. So I chose to go to BYU, Idaho, because, it's a church school. And so I just took out loans, and I had grants because I had so many siblings that I got some grants for that. And then just my dad's financial situation with all 14 of us, I was able to get a lot of it through scholarship. So, and stuff like that. So I just went into a lot of debt and got my bachelor's degree. And so,
but I love that, because I think that's so important, because you and I have, and I'm from the Midwest as well. And I don't know whether it's because there was such a huge industrial area in the Midwest with a lot of, people could make really good livings back in those days working for Caterpillar or Western Electric, which is now AT&T, which is where my dad worked. Or, my biological father sold cars, supported a family being a car salesman. I mean, there was just a salesman industrial mentality then. And your parents are probably younger than my parents, but there was also until World War II ended and you had the GI Bill, nobody went to college unless you were going to be a lawyer or a doctor. There was no reason. You just went to work. So that's not unusual. And that's exactly how I was raised. But I didn't even know about like Pell Grants and any kind of grants or taking out a loan. I have no clue. So I love that you shared that, just to give some other people, if there's anyone listening, especially a young 18-year-old girl that's like, I don't have any family support, I really want to go to college. It's like, well, there are ways to do that. So that's amazing. Yeah. So you how did you get out to BYU Idaho from Missouri?
Well, so my cousins, we grew up next to my cousins. We were just neighbors, and that was just normal for us. Their kids all went to BYU Idaho. And so being so close to them, I was like, this is important and I need to go. And so that's why I picked that college. And I know that the classes are smaller because I homeschooled through high school because we just moved a lot through the divorce and it was just easier to homeschool. But where was I going with that?
How you got there?
Oh yeah. Oh, so yeah, BYU Idaho is smaller schools. They're like 30 to 40 kids, but BYU Provo, I've never been, but like I hear the classrooms are a lot bigger. They're like 100 something students. Right. And I wanted a personal relationship with my teachers because I wanted to do well in school. And so that's why I picked that one. And then, which is another ironic thing, is that one of my roommates is now my girlfriend who I'm dating. So that was funny. So
cool. That's so cool. Yeah. Did you guys like keep in touch after you graduated and went on with your life? And then you were just continued a friendship. And then after you got divorced, you're like, hello, how are you?
It was just basically like that. So we kept in touch after, we just kept in touch, texting on and off. And then my daughter is obsessed with flowers, and my girlfriend has a horticulture major. And so I would just message her and be like, hey, what flower is this? And what flower is that? And so just every now and then, I remember Jacob 5 in the Book of Mormon, like asking her like what that means, like processing that through a horticulture eyes, and like what is rootstocking and what is like grafting and things like that. And so I just remember that conversation really well. But that was years ago. And then just coming out as gay, and then like her also coming out, and then like coming out of the church as well. And things just lined up really well. And yeah.
I think that's so fascinating. So what was your degree? What was your major in at BYU for your undergraduate?
So I have a degree in English literature, and I minored in marriage and family relations, because like what do you need your degree for?
Yeah. So. Marriage and family relations, otherwise known in the old days as home economics, they had to change the name. That's so funny, because I have a girlfriend that also majored in that. And I think that was because what else are you going to use? You don't need to be anything else. You just, if you're just going to be a wife and a mom. So there's no sense in majoring in biology. What would you use that for? Right.
Or like business. I got my degree. Yeah, I have my degree in English. So like, I love writing, and I was just told, just get your degree whenever you enjoy. But like, it didn't actually help me in the future to have this degree, but
yeah. You might as well have, gotten a degree in ancient French.
Yeah, oh yeah, maybe
clothing or something. I know they always, the fathers are all like, what are you going to do? And you're like, but I love it. Yeah. So interesting. So when your parents got divorced, did half the kids go with dad and some of the kids stay with mom? Was there any of that?
So it was really messy. So my childhood is really messy that way. And I love my parents, so I don't want to anyway. So my mom didn't keep custody of us. So my dad got all 8 of us, and then married his wife, my stepmom, with 5 girls, and then they had one of their own. So we were all just crammed in this one house for years. And then we eventually started moving out as the older ones, got older.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
it was
when
pretty,
you say,
it was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So when you say you're one of 14, it wasn't like 7 of them lived with mom and 7 of them lived with dad. No,
yeah,
you were all.
We were all there. Like, so Yours, Mine, and Ours, that old show.
Yeah.
We watched that, and just like my parents stuck like a step kid with a biological kid, and then like that's how they paired us off, which was interesting. So there's 10 girls. She only had 5 girls. So
yeah.
So there was 4 boys and 4 girls. Anyway, there's 10 girls and 4 boys in my family, and so it was just, and we only had 1 bathroom for a long time until we got the other one up and running. So anyway, it was really crazy.
So I love to hear that, though, because, we at one point moved to Northeast Portland, which is the older area of Portland. We have all these bungalow homes. And, most people had 8 and 9 kids back in the day when this house was almost 100 years old that we had moved into. And like I said, 1 bathroom, people had 8 and 9 kids. So it's so funny to hear kids nowadays. They're like, oh, we only have 3.5 bathrooms in our house, and I can't get my hair done. And it's just oh, please, that's amazing. That's amazing. That's a lot of estrogen running around that house.
It is. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of drama. There was so much drama with all these girls.
I love that. I love that story. So after did you meet your husband at BYU then?
No, actually, I made it through, and I never really dated anyone, which I guess is kind of telling because I later came out as gay, but like no, I never had any like serious relationships. I guess let me take that back. So I did get engaged while I was out there, but then we broke it off after a short time because it just wasn't right. And then I came home, and then my grandma was like, hey, have you thought about serving a mission? Because what else do you do? And so I was like, no, I haven't actually thought about that, because you're supposed to. My family, all the women in my family got married at like 19 or less. Like my aunt got married when she was 2 weeks into her 17th year. So like, holy cow. But anyway, so I turned in my papers in the week before, or a couple days before they made the age change in conference. Do you remember? When they changed it to 19-year-olds. So my sister and I actually served our missions at the same time, my younger sister. So that was really fun. And we helped each other like stay out because we kind of struggled on our missions. And we're like, I want to go home, but like my sister's out, so like I don't want to go home.
You encouraged each other.
So yeah, it was very encouraging to have her out at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
When you got your mission call, you opened up the paper and you saw Salt Lake. What was your reaction?
So hang on. So my grandparents, my grandpa's from England, my grandma's from South Africa, and so like I was like, it's kind of around the world. And so I was like, please send me somewhere foreign. But if you don't send me somewhere foreign, send me to Salt Lake.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah. So I actually wanted to go there, which is weird to say. But my dad served his mission in the Salt Lake City South mission. And at the time, the men served for 18 months. Yeah. And so my call was the exact same as my dad's. It was like 18 months, Salt Lake City South. And it was like really, I'm getting emotional talking about it. Really.
Yeah.
It was really special to have that happen to me. So.
Right.
I actually really enjoyed going to Salt Lake, and we were up in Park City and Wyoming and stuff like that. So it was really fun.
That's lovely. I love hearing that. My daughter served the exact same mission. She was in Salt Lake, and she had been at Utah Valley for a while, and then she went to Utah State for a while, and then she went on her mission. So when she got her call to Salt Lake, she was like, seriously? Really? Is this what we're doing here? And but she ended up loving it. And she worked with a lot. She was down in Cedar City for a while. So she worked with a lot of FLDS and, people that wanted to leave. And she also worked with a lot of refugees, which is interesting. Cool. Yeah, because it's kind of following into this life where she's actually working with a lot of refugees right now in Texas. And so she loved her mission. She said, tell me if you had this. You would think going to Salt Lake, there'd be nobody to teach. She had tons of people to teach.
Yes, they were everywhere. Like I think the Mormons are becoming the minority in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to do. So
yeah, I think I heard last 62% or something, or LDS.
Oh, yeah.
So that's interesting. Well, I'm glad I love that you had that experience and that you still reflect on that as a spiritual experience. And I think that's also something that gets kind of skewed in the ex-Mormon world is they think that we don't think that we have spiritual experiences.
Yeah.
Or that we recognize the experiences that we had as a spiritual experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is because there's such, like you were saying in one of your things, there's such a black and white mentality where if it's not from the church, it's from Satan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't think that was from Satan. That was really helped my family, but I'm not in the church, but that was very inspiring. And so you don't have to put away your spiritual experiences to deconstruct.
Yeah, I agree. I think because the church tries to take possession, or I don't know how to say it, to take our spiritual experiences and say, this means this, like this means the church is true, or this means this, whatever. But like, it could just be just a spiritual experience in and of itself. It doesn't have to mean specific things. So
yeah, I love that you said that. It's almost like they co-op your spiritual experiences, and almost like with the Lamanites, we're like, oh, I know you think you know where you came from, but let me tell you, I know where you came from.
Yes.
So even, you think that was from God, but let me tell you, that's not from God, so they co-op all of your own personal, reflections and experiences that you have. So I'm glad that you said that. So you served a mission, you loved your mission. Had a mission presidents, great experience, mission companions.
I kind of struggled in the mission companion area. Everything else was great. Like the work, ebbed and flowed. But another spiritual experience I would say that I have is that I prayed and God, I made a deal with God. I was like, however many times I can read the Book of Mormon on my mission, can you help me baptize that many people?
Oh my gosh.
And so I read it 15 times in the 18 months that I was gone.
Yeah.
And I helped baptize 15 people. And
oh my gosh.
Sorry, Minnie. I haven't talked about this very much since leaving the church, but I love my mission and I loved teaching these people. And a lot of them I still keep in touch with. And some of them, it was a couple that we taught, and we still go out to Salt Lake and see them sometimes, and they're not in the church anymore, and they see my TikTok, and she was like, hey, I recognize her voice. She's like, that sounds like Julia. So she did looked it up, and it was me. And so like we got a hold of each other, and we're like, oh, we're out of the church. And like, she's just processing things too. So that was really fun to get a hold of her and her husband. So anyway, so yeah.
And I think, Julia, the emotion that you're showing us is a perfect example of the love that we had for our experiences as members of the church. It's not that we hated everybody, hate everything, hate the people, hate the, dogma. It isn't that we loved who we were, what we were doing. We believed it. And in your case, and you'll have to tell us more, as part of our podcast today, it's more the dogma. It is the dogma that comes down to not love and not acceptance. And this is where people start going, but wait, So you came home from your mission. You had a lovely experience. You met some fabulous people that are still part of your life. And so when did you meet hubby?
Well, hang on, let me tell you about them coming home. So like,
my brother,
yeah, just really fast, just because I do agree that I love the church. The church served me really well.
Yeah.
So I had a good experience in the church, like just good experience. And it was just learning later that it was like somebody said once, this could be the best lie ever told, or the best thing, I don't know how he said it, but he was like, but it's still a lie. At the end of the day, it's still the best fairy tale ever told, but it's still a fairy tale. Yeah. Anyway, so like coming home from my mission, I hated coming home. I wanted to stay out. And my little brother, he was like, are you crying because you want to be here or because you don't want to be here? And I was like, both. Like, it was just so hard to go home. But so
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to go into the next part of the story. But
when you said that you and your sister struggled with things, and you both encouraged, what were some of the things that you struggled with?
Like there was a time I just struggled with depression on my mission. I dropped a lot of weight. And so that was really, really hard. But then like companions, and then like being out in Wyoming or out, because the mission, we were 3 hours away from the mission home. Wow. And so that was just really hard. There's like nobody around. And so it was just really hard. And then like you're walking around or you're driving around and you're getting, just the work itself is really grueling. You're like getting rejected all the time. But you have to like have your numbers up. And like, it was just, the whole mission is really like, I told one of the sisters in my area, I was like, this is harder than getting my bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, if that's true, then I'm excited to go back and get my degree, because this is really, really hard. So yeah. So, but for some reason, like, still the good parts about it won out, because at the end I didn't want to leave, because I guess I'd gotten used to it. And I was back in the Valley and serving right there in Salt Lake. So yeah.
That's so important. And I love that the message is, I don't think people, especially with the use of social media that the missionaries are using now, they make it look like it's a freaking frat club. I mean, all these missionaries that are out there, and they're in their car and they're dancing around and they're with their guy. I mean, it looks like a bunch of freshmen at college, and that they're all having a big dorm party. But what they're not showing, like you say, is the isolation, the grueling schedule, the fact that you are 24/7 with somebody. And that would be hard for me. I like my alone time, to not be able to escape, to be just writing in your journal and have somebody over there going, I'd be like, yeah, so just having somebody there 24/7 is, if you got along, great. If you get somebody that doesn't fit you, that is a trial. That would be a trial. And not every, I mean, how many companions did you have in those 18 months?
That's a really good question. Because some of them I say kept through, I don't know, 10.
Yeah.
Because it was like 13 transfers, I think.
Wow.
And maybe not that many. I don't know.
And that's change. I mean, the constant change, just depending on your personality. I mean, I think that I can't remember the book that I read. I love that Apple Books keeps all your books so that you can go back and go, oh, I forgot I read that. But there was a book that I read that talked about how religion in general is made for extroverts. And, the whole idea of getting on a plane and sitting next to a stranger and going, have you read the Book of Mormon? Would you like to know more? I mean, when I get on a plane, I put on my headphones, I put on practically blinders so that I don't look at anybody and have to talk to anybody.
Yeah. And the rules on the mission are that if you see someone, you have to talk to them. Like hands down, no exceptions. You have to talk to them. If you see someone crossing the street, you have to talk to them. Like that was what my mission president pushed on us. So it's like, you can't be an extrovert or an introvert. You have to be, outspoken. So
and that just doesn't fit every personality type.
No, it doesn't.
So that's a challenge. That's interesting.
Yeah, and you don't really get a break even on preparation day or P day. You are getting your laundry done, you're getting your shopping done, you're getting your car washed, you're getting all these things, your letters written, and then you go right back to work. Right. So you have like 6 hours to do those things, and then you go right back to the normal missionary schedule. So you don't really have a break.
And when you look at that, I mean, I've had more people talk about how even Dan McClellan, if any of you follow Dan McClellan, even he talks about, if it wasn't for his mission taught him to study, to organize, to, set goals and all of these things. I've had so many people, even the gentleman, we were at Thrive. He came, he talked, he's very, very wealthy. I can't remember. Anyway, he talked about, now, even though he's left the church, his mission set him up to be successful in business. So it's a great training ground for adulthood. It's also a great training ground for indoctrinating people into, you got one day. On Saturday, you're going to wash your car, do your grocery shopping, mow your yard, take your kids to soccer, because that's it, folks. Sunday through Friday, the next week, you're giving it to us. Your time is our time. So you get used to that on your mission. And so it's like, that's what we do. We do everything on Saturday, and the rest of the week is, time, talent, and resources to the church.
Yeah.
So you started to talk about, you had to come home. They wouldn't let you stay.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me stay.
You had to come home. And then what happened?
I actually came home and then went right back to my mission, because one of my roommates was getting married. So I went back to Salt Lake, and then I came back home. And then maybe a couple days later, I met this man who I was like, oh, he seems cool. And then
at church? You met him at church?
We actually were at the temple. So I integrated to the YSA ward, which I'd never done before, except, I was going to BYU White House. So everyone's single out there. But So 2 days after I got back from that second trip, I met this man at the temple, and everyone was telling me like, oh, he's a really good guy. And then 3 weeks later we were engaged. So
Of course.
yeah.
You slacker. What
I
are you
know.
doing for those
I
other
know.
2 weeks?
I know. Yeah, so we didn't really know each other that well. But that's what you're told in Mormonism, that it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, we got married in the temple. And then maybe a year later, we got pregnant with our daughter. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you are just on program. You are just
Yeah.
following
Oh,
the
yeah.
rules. And, I remember, was it Spencer Kimball? I can't remember if it was Spencer Kimball that was like, look, if you have the church in common, then you'll get along fine. It's almost like an arranged
Exactly.
marriage,
Yeah. Any two people can make it work. Yeah.
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 And I suppose that's basically true as long as you accept your roles as designated and you're happy with that.
Yeah.
So, so you had your daughter. So now you're a stay-at-home mom?
Well, so I was a nanny before. So I was a nanny for the 2 years before we had her. I guess it was 2 years that we were married. And then after I had her, I stayed home and did the whole stay-at-home mom thing. And then my husband was like, can you please go back to work? And so I went back to work and I just took my daughter with me. I was a nanny again. And so she was just always with me. I did that for another 2 years. And then I was like, and then I left my marriage and left the church and got a different job. So
you were married for about what, 4 years?
We were married for 6. Yeah. We just recently got divorced. Like it was it was almost a 2-year process of getting divorced. So it took longer to do that than to get married.
And what would you say, as you matured, because now you're also in your mid-20s?
At the time or right now?
Well, at the time. I mean, when you're starting to go, so were you over 25 when you started saying this marriage is not working?
So I was 24 when I got married. And so I was probably, so when I turned 30, even on my birthday, it was a really, really hard day. And so I was like, brought up the word divorce to him and was like really, really struggling because there just wasn't a connection there, which I feel like happens a lot when you're in a mixed orientation marriage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just when I was 30, started like, I don't think this is working, but like our brains aren't even done forming until we're 25 or whatever. So
exactly. That's kind of what I was bringing up is that it's almost like there's a physical, it's almost like if you watch a science fiction movie and they'll do some of that great, artistic tech stuff where the body is just going clickety, 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 and it turns into some kind of a robot that looks like a human. You almost can feel your brain kind of going, and then you hit, like you say, 27, 28, and you start going, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I know what I want to do, or I know who I want to be now because everything went bloop, And so had you left the church then when you say a mixed orientation marriage, had you already left the church and he was still a true believing Mormon?
No. So actually, let me see if I can piece all this together. So while we were married, so 2 things were happening. So my dad was in this group we were the Mound Rovers. We were in the a group of people who are trying to prove that the Book of Mormon took place in the United States.
Oh, right.
And so we were with all these conferences with Wayne May and Rod Meldrum and things like that. My dad is a huge fan of all these individuals.
Right.
And he really, 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 really takes seriously the geography of the Book of Mormon. And so we got on this website and we were doing all these things together, and we would go and travel the United States to see these mounds, to see these American Indian mounds. And they're really cool, but none of them, that kind of didn't make sense to me because it doesn't fit the timeline of the Book of Mormon. But I wasn't doing, so I did a little bit of that research, but my research was can I talking about chiasms or church history or even I remember defending polygamy and defending the angel with a drawn sword. So I was really in the church in that way. But at the same time, I started reading books like Todd Compton. No, not Todd Compton. No. His was later. But D. Todd Christofferson's, Tom Christofferson's book, that They May Be One. So I was starting to read more LDS, LGBTQ books. And then I was in this mindset of becoming an ally, and thinking that gay marriage should be accepted. And so I was in immersing myself in all this literature that's produced by the church, very, very faithful. And just changing my mind on what I thought was correct from the prophets, I guess. Questioning all the doctors and people are saying this is healthy, that these are good people, good parents. this doesn't make sense to me, because if God is all knowing, he would know that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing two things, like a really strong hold of the Book of Mormon and really strongly holding this more progressive view, I guess.
Right.
And then I got a hold of the book. It was a book by Taylor Petrie called Tabernacles of Clay. I started reading that one, and that made me see like the church leaders are just making stuff up. Like they keep changing the doctrines, and it just kind of changes with the times. So it was just very clear to me that the prophet is led by culture. And that was hard to handle. And then I got a hold of Todd Compton's book, In Sacred Loneliness, and was just like, Joseph did this thing that I think is horrible, that I do not agree with. And I don't think Joseph was a prophet. And then so two of the things broke with me, the current prophet and then the Joseph Smith. And so I was like, and also, coming to terms that I'm gay, and that's, I guess, a whole different story. But so all those things kind of crumbled together. And then I was like, I can't stay in this marriage and I can't stay in this church. But I think it was more that I couldn't stay in the marriage. And I think I left the church a little later in my head, or mentally leaving, because I kept trying to make it work. Like I was even attending church after I moved out of the house. I was still trying to attend church, but you can't be gay and be in the church. They'll just excommunicate you. So that's what happened. So,
well, that, and we're going to talk about that, but I love that you recognize that, look, regardless of what else is going on politically, church, I'm not attracted to you. And and maybe, and I don't even know if you had it, you said, maybe it was, no, I don't know, that was your parents, but I don't know if it was an amicable divorce or what, but if you're not attracted to someone, if you don't look at someone and go, I love you, I'm going to kick you in the head right now because you're making me so mad, but basically I love you. If there's nothing there, then that's a whole, that's just, it is what it is. So that's what you're saying, is that there was a disconnect. Like, I don't even love you, and I'm going to move on. And then you've got a daughter, and you've got a family that probably looks despairingly on that idea that you would get divorced. So that's a big move.
Yeah, it was really, yeah.
So it wasn't an amicable necessarily, like, you're right, I don't like you either.
Yeah, no, so what happened is he was like, so I came out first as bi, because I think we need to give people room to figure out what they are.
Yes.
And so and it's safer to come out as bisexual because it's not like, oh, at least you can still like men.
Exactly.
But
it's
then,
not you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then I came to realize, and I even wrote a novel, so I was going through this big ally phase, and I was trying to write a book about this woman joining the church, even though she's gay. So I'm processing all of this. And I remember even interviewing Stephanie Larson from Encircle. I called her up as an active member and was just talking to her, and I want to be like her and have this house for these LGBTQ kids. But yeah, so when I told my husband that I'm actually gay, he was like, no, you're not. And you need to go to counseling. And because when I was a child, I was sexually abused by some member in my family, my extended family. And so he's like, that's what's causing you to feel like you're gay. And so you need to go to therapy and to do this EMDR stuff. And when I got to my therapist, she was like, I'm not here to make you straight. You are what you are, but we can process your abuse and we can just go through all that. So that's what we did. And after a while, she was like, after months of doing this, and we were also going to marriage counseling from our bishop. He recommended us and had us go to counseling. But my therapist was like, this is what you are. This has nothing to do, you being gay doesn't have to do anything to do with you being sexually abused. So that was reassuring to me. And he still didn't like that, and his family didn't like that. And it was really messy. I don't know how much detail to go into, but
no, yeah, I mean, you can totally understand that. I mean, that makes so much sense, because first of all, he doesn't want it to be true.
Right.
And so if you don't want something, you want to try to make it not happen or not be.
Yeah.
So there was that. So, well, I am so proud of you though, for just saying, no, this is who I am. And we're so you got divorced.
Yeah.
And now you're in your 30, you're such a young.
But I'm a little older than 30.
But I mean, to have all of this stuff, I mean, you've gone through a lot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, most people have gone at 30, they've gone through high school, they went to college, they got a job. Ta-da. You've lived a lot of lives. and experienced a lot of stuff by the time you're 30. So let's talk a little bit about your, starting out as an ally and then going on to like how you work that into your TikTok as far as like, look, this is who I am. I'm gay. I have a girlfriend, and we have chosen to leave the church so that we can be happy and live our lives. Talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned that she was one of your roommates.
Oh, yeah.
And so talk a little bit about how you finally decided to live an authentic life.
Well, I don't know if I'll answer the question precisely, but so she got married in the temple as well. And then while she was in, she started becoming or realizing that she was a feminist, because women are not treated equally in the church.
Right.
And that's really obvious if you just look at it. And even just the aspect of what a woman does, like somebody had mentioned the other day, like you hit all the checkpoints, but once you get married and you have kids, then that's the end of your boxes. Like you just have to endure to the end for the rest of your life.
Right.
And that's not why would you want to do that? Like achieve goal points. Anyway, so she became a feminist, and she was like, this isn't working for me. So she was still in her marriage, but out of the church. And then eventually did just leave her marriage because it wasn't working with them either. And then she moved in with me, and then my stake president found out, because I'm assuming my ex-husband told them, but they were like, you need to come in and be excommunicated. And I was like,
Did
I don't
come in for your guillotine appointment at 3:30?
Yeah, I was like, no, thank you. But here's all the reasons why I'm not in the church anymore. And so long. I tried to be very polite and very informative on why I didn't think that was, it just seems like a really barbaric thing to do, is excommunicate somebody. But then, yeah, but like, so I try not to be like super personal in my TikToks, because I just want anyone to just come across it and just see like this information. There are a few videos that I talk about myself, or that I talk about my partner. But yeah, I try to just keep it more like historical. But people will still slander me and say like, well, you're just gay and you're just trying to justify yourself and your lifestyle and things like that. But studies show that when you are gay and celibate, you're really, really unhappy if you're in the church, or like just choose to be celibate. So I was like, I don't want that. And I was learning these things as an ally, as a member of the church, like actively in the church.
Right.
And so I just wanted the most happiness for myself. And so that's why I chose to be authentic. That's why I came out. And then my girlfriend is out with me. And like, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No,
like,
perfectly, because I think it's so interesting that, like you said, every psychological study, we were watching, I think it was the Sunday morning show. And they had a little snippet on men and how men have lost the ability to find friends, and how important it is to have a friend. And, all of this stuff about mental health, as far as having, even if it's something as simple as a coffee shop that you go to every morning and everybody recognizes you, knows your name, you feel like you're part of, hey, Fred, how you doing? You sit down with John, and the two of you have coffee every morning. That will satisfy a psychological healthiness. And then they talk about how, the percentage of people that will stay healthy are people that are married or with a partner. And they give you all these statistics and all this data on how being married, having a partner, living with someone, having a family, being in a community, blah, blah, blah. They give you all this data. And then the church comes out and says, oh, you can be gay if you want to, but you just have to live a lonely, celibate life. It's like,
yeah,
nobody says that's healthy for any human.
Yeah.
It doesn't even work for puppies. I mean, they're like, get the puppy a puppy. They need companionship. They're pack animals. And so we can accept that for heterosexual people. We can't accept that for, homosexual people, because why? Why can't you accept that? So it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And I can't even imagine, but I love the fact that what you did was you said, well, and I also find it absolutely fascinating that people think they can put 2 and 2 together and get 4, because they're like, oh, see, you're gay because you left the church. And because you didn't want to be married to that guy anymore, or that you were sexually abused. These are and I'm thinking, well, I left the church and I'm not attracted to other women. So that doesn't really fall into your little category. Or, it's just like, this is who I am. And so you're, and I love the fact too, and I was going to look it up, but the quote, I love Gordon B. Hinckley, and I know Gordon B. Hinckley was a fallible man, but for some reason I can excuse him and I can give him empathy.
He's like our grandpa.
He is. And he always, whenever he spoke at conference, he always just built you up. He would say things like, it's all right, do your best, start over, we love you. Just, very, like you say, I don't ever remember him being hateful,
Yeah.
But I look at the things that he did and I go, okay, I think you were scared. I think you were confused. I think you knew what your position was. I think you were following the path that you kind of got yourself thrown
like the
into.
tradition of our fathers. I think of that too. Like they could just be following tradition because like with Ensign Peak anyway, like having had that happen in the 90s and then kept perpetuated for 20 years. Like, I don't know.
And I think if you grew up in that whole indoctrination where, there are some things that a Joseph Smith quote where there are some things, it's in the Happiness Letter, some things that aren't accepted by the world are accepted by God. So, maybe he was like, okay, maybe this is one of these God things where it's illegal and we're not supposed to do it, but God wants us to do it. So anyway, I give him he's the only prophet I give slack to, but, but when he said the quote, that it is either true or it's not true. Joseph Smith was either a prophet or he wasn't a prophet. And to me, and I know that's black and white thinking, but there are certain things I feel, like you were talking about. I think sexually abusing a child is wrong. There's no gray area. There is no gray area.
Yeah.
There are certain things in life that are good and certain things that are bad. And so if you do the history, what were some of the first, things that you started on your TikTok? What were some of the historical facts that you started with?
One of my first videos was the Book of Abraham, because that's really confusing to me.
Yeah.
Like the church tries to say that either the catalyst theory, which I think is the only one that holds up, or the lost scrolls, because I don't think that's accurate. Somebody measured it and they said what we're missing is actually not very much. And so that, and also other things that would make it not work. And Joseph's directly tying the text of the Book of Abraham to the facsimiles, which are just funerary text stuff. So that was really confusing to me. Just that whole thing. And then I'm trying to think of some of my early ones were LGBTQ kind of things, because especially like when they teach Joseph Fielding Smith, somebody where he taught that you are sexless if you are not in the celestial kingdom, which I was like, whoa, like how can you believe that? Like, gender is not eternal then? Because you're saying that it is, but then you're teaching that it's not. Yeah. And then like being intersex is another thing, is because the church says you are male or female, but there's a large percentage, or no, a small percentage of people, but it's a large number of humans that are intersex. And so like they have male and female genitalia. And so it's like, what are these people supposed to be? Like, are they right? Like, how does that work? Anyway, so like, it was just really confusing to me. So, because like church doctrine does not hold up with science. It just, they don't mix. And so that's, or like the earth being 6,000 years old. It's like, no, it's really not. And like you have to hold these certain things in order to believe the church is true. Like Adam and Eve, not actual people, right? As far as evolution. Anyway, so it's just, just stuff like that. Yeah.
And it's exactly what you say. It's the huge ping pong effect of one prophet says this, the next prophet goes, never mind. We're not doing that. We don't believe that anymore. And then the next prophet goes, oh yes, we are. We like that one, And so at what point, you're watching this game and you're like, we do? Okay, we do. We don't? Okay, we don't. Okay, now what are we doing now? Oh, okay. And you're willing to sit there and live your whole life, doing this. And I remember, I think when Rebecca Bibliotech and I were talking, and I mentioned how I've always been kind of just a believer, almost like you were saying, you grow up in a family, you have ham for Easter. I don't know. You don't even think about it. You just know that ham's an Easter food and turkey's a Thanksgiving food or whatever. And you just do it. So I'm in the church and I'm just going along. Yeah. Good. And you're just kind of going along with everything. But then there would be things where you'd go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I didn't think of it as a I'm going against doctrine. I just thought that doesn't work for me. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not hurting anybody. For example, because my husband is a very true believing Mormon and a very obedient rule follower. And so he said to me one day, when you go in for a temple recommend and they ask you if you wear your temple garments day and night, what do you tell them? And I go, yeah. He goes, but you don't wear your garments at night. So how can you tell them that? I'm like, because it's none of their business. And I said, and I believe that while I'm sleeping next to you in our bed, I'm probably not sinning or being tempted or whatever thing that they think you're supposed to, So if I take my garments off at night because I'm not sleeping in 5 layers of clothing, that I think I'm probably okay. And I never ever thought, I thought, oh, there's a reason for it, I guess. I don't know, but I don't care. I didn't care enough to think about it. And when I told my husband, I said, well, let me tell you why I don't wear my garments at night. Because I have 6 children and I'm getting up all night long with kids. And I said, and now that my boys are getting a little older, I don't feel comfortable coming out of our bedroom in my garments because that's what I used to sleep in. And so one day I decided I'm going to start wearing pajamas and I'm not wearing garments underneath my pajamas. That's it. There was no master plan to have an affair or, get some money from a company and steal it, embezzle money from no, there was none of that. It was like, I'm hot. I'm not wearing lots of clothing. The end. So because of that, I didn't feel like it was a huge doctrine. It was like, this is a personal thing and I don't care about it, So I think that's like, there's certain things in your life, even if you're going along and the church is serving you. I mean, it was a great place. I think my family's better that I dragged those 6 kids to church every Sunday. I think they're better people because I dragged them to church every Sunday. None of them are active, but I actually have one daughter that's active. And I have another daughter that is very, very Christ-centered.
Is your husband still active?
Oh, yeah. That man is dyed in the wool. He is, but Julia, he's a white male. He's a white male, successful businessman.
Yeah, the church is built for men like him.
For him, gave him reward after reward. So I get it. And it's like, look, you're a good man, whatever. And besides that, you go to church for a couple hours on Sunday, it gives me free time. So I'm good. But there is that whole doctrine that you start going, that doesn't even make sense. Or you just recoiled that whole thing and rewound it and spun it into something else. So at some point, it does get down to historical data. And at some point, to me, it's like, look, patriarchy is patriarchy. You can spin it however you want to. This is a patriarchal church. Women have 0 authority in this church. They hold no positions of power in the church. That's it. It's like you can have, I just heard a quote yesterday and I've got to find it again. It's like, you can have your opinion and I can have my opinion. You can't have your facts.
Oh yeah. I love that.
Yeah. It's like facts are facts. Yeah. And that's just the truth. So you can whine and complain and do all that stuff. But if you're sitting in the pew, writing out a check and giving it to this corporation, then you believe it, then you're supporting it. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I love that. And I also love, like when you mentioned being excommunicated, I chose to resign my membership. I'm really interested in the people that go, I'm not going to resign my membership. If I leave this church, you're going to kick me out. And I thought, I'm not giving you that power. I'm not allowing you the power to tell me if I can belong to this club or not. I took that power back, and that's why I resigned my membership. So I love that you were like, yeah, I'm not going to be at that little meeting that you're having with your, 15 white guys.
Well, so I guess so. Like I did have the mindset because I could have resigned. I could have resigned, but like I loved the church and I didn't want, and I think it's wrong. I think it is not healthy for some people, and it is wrong and very wrong in some areas. Yeah. So I was like, I love this, and I can't be the one that leaves it. So I have to have them kick me out. So it was like helpful mentally. Yeah. Although everything else I was like, I'm not going to come. I'm going to keep that power in my hand. Right. And like other things where it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. But like still allowing them. Yeah. They have to cut it because I can't do that.
So I love that you are using the comparison though. because the fact that you were gay that said, I love this church and I'm not leaving the church because I'm going to change. I'm going to help this church change. Was that what your mindset was?
When like staying or leaving or
Yeah. Before you got the guillotine threat, were you like, I'm going to stay in this church because I love it. It's been so much a part of my life and we can make this work. We can make this work. Was that what your mindset was?
No, well,
And that's
no.
why you didn't resign, or?
I think I knew it wasn't going to work, and I don't, and I still want the church to change. I still think it could.
Right.
I think culture, I think the membership can change it, but I don't think I had that mindset. I think it was just like, I need you to do it. Like if your child's dying, I kind of think of it as a death. Yeah. Like the church is my loved one that's on life support, and I need someone else to pull the plug because I can't do that.
So, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I love this so much. I can't be the one to pull the plug.
Yeah. So like I need them to cut me off.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sad. But I love that truth though.
Okay.
That's
sorry.
amazing. That's amazing. So now where are you at now? So you've got your TikTok. Do you get feedback from your TikTok? Do you get like some of these people that I love Spencer on TikTok, and he responds to the trolling that he gets on TikTok. Do you get a lot of negative feedback on your channel?
Hang on, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
I can't hear you for some reason.
Uh-oh.
Let me see my settings.
I'll sing a little song.
Right.
Okay, got it. I was saying that I love some of the people on TikTok. They respond to their feedback, and it's amazing how much negative feedback a lot of people get on TikTok. Have you gotten a lot of negative feedback?
Oh yeah, like people are really mean, and so like a lot of it I take. So I read it, and I tell my girlfriend, and I was like, "This is really mean," and she's like, "You need to stop." And it like hurts me like all day. And she's like, you need to stop taking these comments in, and you just need to like let it go, because people, they don't even know like what they're saying, or like they'll say just really harsh things. And so like I can't think of anything at the moment, but you mentioned earlier where you talked about my eyes. That's one of the comments I get the most is like, I have big blue eyes. People think I use a filter, and so like anyway, so I thought that was kind of funny. But
that's so funny.
But yeah, people can be really mean, and I think it's easier for people to be mean online because they're hiding behind the screen, or they're hiding behind a name, and it's just easy for them to do that. So I try not to take it personally, but I usually do.
Well, I think that's easier said than done when people say, oh, you got to get a tough skin. I'm like, yeah, but that, and it's so funny because the ad hominem, that is a last resort to where you have out argued their point. You've like already stepped on everything they've tried to say. And so their last ditch effort is to start attacking you personally.
Yeah.
And I remember I got into it with a lady that we used to go to church with, where we used to live. And she was just, you're so prideful and you're being led by the devil and blah, blah, blah. And I kept saying, it's funny because the things you're saying to me are things I heard over the pulpit. So you're just repeating things that you've been trained to say.
Yeah.
Well, what's your personal opinion, And then finally at the last minute, she goes, you might like your gray hair, but not everybody likes your gray hair. And I was like, we're going there now. Is that where we're going? And I was like, and block. I'm done with this. I mean, it just gets ridiculous. It just gets ridiculous.
One thing I do appreciate, my favorite comments are when people are criticizing my research, where they're like, and like in a kind way, they're like, hey, I don't agree with this source you're using in this way or whatever. And they're not talking about me at all or my art. Like they're just going to the argument and saying the reasons factually why. Right. And sometimes, I don't know how often, but like sometimes I can get things wrong. Yeah. But sometimes it makes me just dive deeper. Yeah. Like for example, like somebody talked to me about the Nahum area in Saudi Arabia or what is it called? In that area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it made me look deeper, and I was like, no, I really think I'm right on this, and just presented it in a different way or in a more deeper way to just get my point across. So I do appreciate the comments that go for the sources and how I'm interpreting those sources. So, but yeah, the ad hominem, that's just the low hanging fruit, I guess. And it's just,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I love the fact, and I think a lot of people they don't, because they believe that anything that doesn't go along with a conference talk is anti-Mormon fake literature.
Mhm.
They don't understand. Like when I first started my deconstruction, I literally did not listen to any Mormon stories episodes that dealt with a personal reason why they left. I didn't care if your dad was a bishop and he was never home and you felt neglected and blah blah blah. Those things were not what I was looking for. What I was looking for, and the reason I was looking for this is the rock and a hat. That was my first like what.
Yeah.
And when I heard, and then I saw that the church accepted that, and I was like, I've been in the church for over 51 years. I raised children. We sang Book of Mormon stories. I have pictures on my wall of a quote from Joseph Smith. I never knew this. So that was a historical truth. So that was the beginning of me doing historical truths. And that's where I feel like you're at. It's like, look, you can tell, like, for example, like the Hans Mill story. All I ever heard was those poor people that suffered this traumatic nobody's arguing that this was horrible. Children shot, women raped, and everything. It was absolutely horrible. Nobody talks about the other side of the story. Why did this? Nobody's taking away that it was not called for, that it was over the top, that it was a horrific, but let me hear the other side of the story of why these people attacked these Mormons at Hans Mill. That's what I'm looking for. Why did this happen? Tell me. And it goes back to the truth that's out there about our American history. Talking about things that we're now finding out. I was just this blind little dumb kid that went through school in middle America and learned that the pioneers came here for religious freedom and loved the Indians. Ta-da. That's as far. I didn't do any research on the indigenous population and the, American Indian Act. I didn't know anything about the Trail of Tears. I didn't know anything about those things. And so that's the historical truths I'm looking for. And I'm willing to look at both sides. But when it comes to my money and my time, I want to know if I'm in the right spot.
Yeah.
So what would you say? How often do you post to TikTok?
Well, it's been less lately because my workload has been a little bit more because my partner and I are trying to open up a publishing company. So it's been a little bit less. So I try to do it. I try to do it every other day, but it's not been that.
Every other day.
Yeah.
That's a ton, girlfriend. That's a lot of, there's your English major.
Oh, yeah.
There's your writing. There's your research.
Yeah.
Every other day.
Yeah. It doesn't always happen, but like through a conference, I was giving an update after every session because I went and watched it. Yeah. And so I was posting, 2 or 3 times a day during that. But anyway, so that was fun.
Did you see the meme? I love the meme. Somebody put up a meme of like a comparison of active members of the church watching conference, and they're all like, and then ex-Mormons watching conference, and we're sitting there with our and you said, I watch conference more than I've ever watched conference before. My husband's like,
I find it enjoyable now, whereas before I'm like trying to find meaning in things, and now it's just like I don't really take notes. I maybe write down 2 sentences just for the purpose of re-sharing it. But like, I don't know, it's nicer now and it goes faster, I think, as an ex-Mormon than it did as a Mormon.
It does. It really does. When people say 9 hours or 10 hours of conference, I'm like, well, that went by fast. And I was excited. It's like, oh, Saturday morning. Oh, and I could get it on my phone so I could listen to it while I was walking and stuff like that. But I've always, and this is probably a male-female thing, I've always watched more conference than my husband ever did. He always
I think that's true too, especially when they started streaming the priesthood session on. Yeah,
that was fascinating. Well, I love, what do you think, just to close out the show, what would you think, what's your main message and where you think your deconstruction is going and I know, and talk a little bit about how you have actually found a community and talk a little bit about that, because that's such an important part of the deconstruction.
Sure. So I do attend a church right now. It's a small Christian church, and it's very it's LGBTQ affirming. So that every morning or when they welcome us there, they say you can be gay, you can be trans, you can be, non-binary, whatever, and you're welcome. And they also say you can believe in God some of the times, none of the times, or all of the times, and you're welcome. And the sermons are very much, I imagine if David Bokovoy got up, because he's a Bible scholar, and if he were to teach the lessons, like not teaching things as fact, but teaching them as, like, they don't really teach that Jesus was resurrected. They think that, or they teach more like his purpose of loving others, and how was speaking truth to power and stuff like that, and how us living for his cause can help him live on, help him be resurrected in purpose or whatever. And so like it's very secular, and I really, really like it. And and also I can help my daughter to have more of an open mindset of, because she does still attend church with her dad. And then, but now she also attends church with me. And so she's more open-minded, and she's a little ally. So she's always talking about how, we should love gay people, love Black people, love everyone. And I really love that. And this just feels like a good, really comfortable place, because like our nation is mostly Christian. And so my thoughts are like, if I don't know where my feelings are as far as like the truthfulness of the Bible, I feel like I pretty well know that it's not, like, I know it's not accurate. I don't know how I feel about Christ, because I love his messages. I don't know how I feel about him being a deity or the Son of God. But I don't remember where I was going.
No, that's beautiful, because that's so rare to be able to find something like that. I remember my daughter at one point said, "Oh, Mom, you should look into the Baha'i religion, because they're very accepting of, So I looked into it, and I went, no, they think that all of the prophets, Muhammad, Buddha, all of the Jesus, that they were all prophets of God. And I'm like, no, that's also patriarchal. You're also looking at men who started organizations, and but I'm with you. It's like, I grew up Methodist before my parents joined the church. I was Methodist. I've had pictures of Jesus in my bedroom since I was a child. I've prayed to Jesus my whole life. That's a hard thing to rip away. I still have pictures of Jesus in my home, because I love the message. I love the love. And so I want to look at it as a love truth, and not I don't believe in the atonement or resurrection or any of those things. But when you're teaching people to love one another, I'm good with that, as long as there's not. And I don't know, I try to listen to as many biblical scholars as I can. And I haven't heard, I know that the disciples left family to serve Jesus. So I really have a hard time with men that left children and wives to suffer on their own so that they could go and do their thing. I have a hard time with that. It's like Britt Hartley always says, it's like, oh, so you left your family for 3 months and went to India and learned how to meditate. Good for you. So it's like, there's no mom. There's very few moms that said, I'm out of here. Bye-bye. See you later, kids and husband and job and, responsibility. And how we can find, as women, we find spiritualism in everyday things that we do. Taking care of a baby, taking care of a toddler, wiping, a bruised knee, or combing our daughter's hair before we take them to school is a spiritual experience, for women. And I love that. So I'm a little hesitant to follow a bunch of men, especially because most of them, and I don't see this in Jesus's case, but most of them, there is some kind of sexual predatory thing that falls into the whole, even in Buddhism, there's some kind of sexual stuff that falls into it eventually at some point. Sexual control, patriarchy, kind of hidden behind stuff. I'm like, no, not going to work with that.
Yeah, that's one thing. And also, at this church, we have a male and a female pastor. And a lot of the churches, because my partner and I went and explored other religions, and a lot of them, and we went to affirming ones, and a lot of them, almost all of them had a female pastor, like a female bishop. And I thought that was really interesting, because in our church it was like, no, that will never happen in the Mormon church.
Yeah.
And so like I didn't realize how common that was outside of the church. So
even in Judaism, a lot of some of the Hollywood stars, they'll talk about their female rabbi, and I know it's a different sect that Judaism is branched off into different, just like Christianity has. But anyway, so Julia, tell everybody where to find you. I want you to Not yet, but I want everyone when this is over to stop and find her on her TikTok and listen to what she has to say. Listen to her tone of voice, the kindness with which she shares this data. And I think there's just room for everyone. And she's just one of those voices that when you listen to her TikTok, you're not angry. You're not like, yes, I'm going to go, pillage. But you have a deep understanding and a desire to learn more. So tell people how they can find you.
Well, thank you for that comment. I really try to be kind. I want to be a soft place to get information, I guess, because my family is still very active, a lot of my family. And so I do share these things on my own, like Facebook and stuff. And so I want them to I don't hate the church.
Right.
So I don't want them to think that they can't listen to me because of this. But yeah, I have a website, Analyzing Mormonism. I have a podcast with the same name. I'm on Instagram and YouTube, but I'm at TikTok. So I am other places, but yeah, TikTok's normally really the main place I post. So.
Okay, so just typing Analyzing Mormon.
Yeah, I'll come up, like Analyzing Mormonism. My podcast will come up, the website will come up, and some of my videos will come up. So it's just Google it, and it's right there. So
how dare you use the word Mormon? I can't. No.
I think that's so silly.
I know it's so silly. Another reason why I loved Gordon Hinckley, because
he's
love
it doesn't matter.
I know. I love the whole idea that he stood up 6 months later and went, Randy, we've had this talk. We fought over this on Thursday in the temple. I already told you we're not doing this, but you insisted on giving that talk. Well, even though I told you not to. So I'm just going to smash you back down again. So
and Joseph himself said it meant more good, and that's what he was quoting. So it's yeah.
Well, and I love the fact that the church started out as the Church of Christ. Then it went to the Church of Latter-day Saints. And then it went to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then it went to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter/day Saints.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of like people, really. I mean, if the original guy couldn't even figure out what we're called, we're good.
Yeah.
Randy's got a plan, he's gonna, he's gonna,
Russell. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Russell rather. Yeah. Russell's got a plan. He's stubborn enough. I'm going to live longer than Gordon Hinckley.
Yeah.
I'm going to build more temples than Gordon Hinckley. I am going to beat that, guy that embarrassed me back in 1995. He's got a grudge. He's living his life through the encouragement of a grudge, I think. But
I do like that he's moving to more Christ based, the logo and I don't know, bringing Christ back into the name. I like where he's going, but we're kind of just making the church just a regular.
Yeah, we're just going Methodist. I'm so glad I can be Methodist again. I can't wait to see what else has changed and go back to where I was 50 years ago. But anyway, well, you go on with your life. You go back to work. I know you've had a busy day and lots of stuff you have to do. This woman actually has a job. So I appreciate sharing so much. It was such a joy listening to you today. And I'm just going to continue to watch your TikTok.
Thanks.
All right. See you later.
Bye.
Oh my gosh. Is she not amazing? She's just, honestly, there's so many components to her. It's her voice, her tone, the data that she's, revealing. I just really fell in love with her when I found her on TikTok. So TikTok. Wait, that's what the Congress, TikTok? No, TikTok. So it's a wonderful, go to her page. You'll really enjoy it. So thank you all for joining me today. And we will see you again next week. For all of you wonderful, let me grab this here. For all of you wonderful women, I just want you to remember that, that we all have stories to tell. We all have a purpose here in life. And the purpose of She Became Visible is to tell the stories of women who one day woke up and said, I am who I am. I have a right to be a person with a purpose here on earth. And I want you to see me. I'm here and I'm visible. And that is the purpose of She Became Visible. So find us on YouTube, find us under Mormon Discussions. Please like, subscribe, and share. That's the most important thing. So, all right, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.